Let's be honest, this car should have never existed. A high-revving, naturally aspirated V10 in a four-door executive sedan built by a company known for balanced, practical German engineering? This wasn't a calculated business decision. This was a passion project gone completely off the rails. And yet that's exactly why the BMW M5 E60 became one of the most legendary, most misunderstood, and most terrifying sedans ever built. It looked like any other luxury car. Comfortable seats, sleek design, room for the whole family. But hidden under that respectable exterior was a screaming 5-liter V10, the kind of engine you'd expect to find in a Formula One race car, not a business-class commuter. This wasn't just BMW making a fast sedan. This was BMW going completely mad. They built a machine that defied logic, defied the market, and in some ways, even defied themselves. A car so raw, so aggressive, so unpredictable, that it earned a nickname usually reserved for Japan's most terrifying monster, Godzilla. And this is the full story behind how BMW created one of the wildest performance sedans the world has ever seen. To understand why BMW built such a monster, we have to rewind to the early 2000s. This was a different era. Car companies were still experimenting, playing with big ideas. There were no EU emissions limits choking creativity to death, no EV mandates, no artificial sound generators. It was a time when manufacturers could still take risks, when passion projects sometimes made it off the drawing board. BMW was riding high. They weren't just making some of the best drivers' cars in the world, they were also heavily involved in Formula One, supplying engines for the Williams F1 team. And what powered those race cars? V10 engines, screaming, high-revving, naturally aspirated V10s, capable of spinning to nearly 20,000 RPM. That racing DNA was burning hot inside BMW's engineers. But what good was it if that passion stayed locked away on the track? BMW's M division wanted to bring that magic to the streets, not in a supercar, not in a limited production halo vehicle, but in something that would show up to the boardroom and then absolutely destroy everyone at the track day on the weekend. They didn't want just another performance sedan. They wanted a race car in a suit, and so the plan was set. Take the best-selling luxury sedan, the 5 Series, and give it something no one else had the guts to build. A naturally aspirated V10 engine built from scratch. Not borrowed from another model, not based on the V8 from the regular 5 Series. This would be a purpose-built monster designed purely for one thing: insanity. At the time, Mercedes was flexing with the supercharged V8 E55 AMG. Audi was pushing their big V8 S6. But BMW? They decided to go full Formula One. It was bold, it was expensive, and honestly, it was a little bit stupid. But that's why it worked. At the center of this insanity was the S85 engine, a 5.0-liter 90-degree V10 hand-built by BMW's M division. On paper, it delivered 507 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque. But those numbers don't even begin to tell the story. This wasn't just an engine, it was a statement. The S85 was completely unique, not shared with any other BMW model at the time. It wasn't a modified V8, it wasn't a detuned race motor. It was purpose-built from the ground up, designed to spin all the way to 8,250 RPM. That rev range was unheard of for a sedan. Even Ferrari V8s of that era were barely hitting those numbers. But the magic wasn't just in the RPMs, it was in how the power came on. There was no turbo lag, no artificial boost, just pure linear power delivery, the kind of engine that rewards you for pushing it harder. The throttle response? Instant. The sound? Absolutely terrifying. Forget the low rumble of an American V8. Forget the mechanical whine of a turbocharged inline-6. The S85 screamed like a banshee with a metallic howl that could wake the dead. It wasn't just loud, it was musical. It climbed through the rev range like a symphony, hitting every note with perfect timing before smashing into the red line like a race car hitting the wall. BMW engineers didn't stop at the engine either. They paired it with a 7-speed SMG 3 transmission, a single-clutch automated manual gearbox that could deliver brutal, neck-snapping shifts. The SMG was controversial. It was slow and clunky around town, but on the track in manual mode, it was violent. Each shift felt like a shotgun blast through the drivetrain. It was harsh, unforgiving, demanding. And that's exactly how BMW wanted it, because this wasn't supposed to be easy. This wasn't supposed to be comfortable. This was a car that punished you if you didn't know what you were doing. It didn't care about your daily commute. It cared about one thing: performance at the limit. The M5 V10 wasn't just fast, it was alive. And that engine, the S85, was its beating heart. Wild, dangerous, beautiful. But as we'll see in the next chapter, sometimes the things that make a heart beat fast are also the things that can tear it apart. On the outside, the E60 M5 might have looked like just another business-class sedan. 4 doors, leather seats, navigation system, the perfect car to pick up clients from the airport. But the moment you pressed the start button, you knew this wasn't just a regular 5 Series. The engine didn't purr. It didn't politely hum to life. It roared, violent, raw, alive, like a wild animal suddenly let off the chain. And once you put your foot down, the car made its intentions crystal clear. This is not going to be easy. Driving the E60 M5 wasn't about comfort, it was about commitment. The S85 V10 wasn't built to forgive mistakes, it was built to reward precision. And if you weren't paying attention, it would bite back hard. The power delivery was relentless. Linear, yes, but brutal. No turbo lag to smooth things out. No electronic babysitters to hold your hand. And here's the thing, all that power was going straight to the rear wheels. No all-wheel drive safety net, no traction control hero mode, just you, the gas pedal, and a whole lot of horsepower looking for an excuse to break loose. Pair that with the 7-speed SMG single-clutch gearbox, and you had one of the most demanding driving experiences BMW had ever put on the street. The SMG was clunky around town, jerky at low speeds, but when you pushed it hard, it came alive. Full throttle upshifts slammed into place like hammer strikes. Downshifts barked with perfect rev-matching aggression. And when you finally found the right road, a clear stretch of pavement, no traffic, just open space, the M5 V10 felt like nothing else. No turbos, no fake sound pumps, just pure mechanical violence, delivered in a package that looked like it should be parked outside the law office. But make no mistake, behind the wheel of this thing, you weren't a businessman. You were a fighter pilot, and every drive felt like stepping into the ring. Here's the truth no one wanted to admit back then. The M5 V10 was too much car for most people. It wasn't the easiest to live with, it wasn't the most reliable, and it certainly wasn't the cheapest to maintain. Let's talk about the problems, because oh yes, there were problems. The S85 engine was a masterpiece, but also a bit of a diva. It demanded regular care. Things like rod-bearing failures, throttle actuator issues, and SMG pump problems became well-known nightmares for owners. This was not a car you bought and forgot about. This was a car you had to respect, or it would remind you who's in charge. Then there was the SMG gearbox itself. At a time when dual-clutch transmissions were becoming the standard for high-performance cars, BMW stuck with a single-clutch automated manual. And while it was brutally fast at full throttle, it was awkward and jerky at low speeds. City driving felt like taming a wild horse on a leash, and let's not forget the fuel consumption. BMW claimed around 15 miles per gallon. Real-world driving? Often worse. Very few cars could burn through a tank of gas faster and sound this good doing it. But here's the thing, those flaws, they're part of what made the car so special, because perfection wasn't the point. Raw emotion was. The E60 M5 wasn't trying to be polite. It wasn't here to make your commute smoother. It was here to challenge you, to test you, to make you feel something. And if you weren't up for the fight, well, maybe you didn't deserve it. The E60 M5 wasn't a sales disaster, but it wasn't exactly the runaway success BMW had hoped for either. Journalists were split. Some praised its performance, its engine, its drama. Others slammed the SMG gearbox, the complicated electronics, and the high cost of ownership. And everyday buyers? Many just weren't ready for a car that required so much attention. It wasn't just a car you owned, it was a car you had to work for. In the years that followed, BMW moved on. The next generation M5, the F10, went back to a V8, this time turbocharged. More power, sure, but also more weight, more refinement, less of that raw, mechanical soul. The E60 V10 became a bit of an outcast, a wild child, a car that was too much for its time. But as the years went by, something happened. Enthusiasts started to look back and they realized BMW would never do something this crazy again. The E60 M5 wasn't just another fast sedan, it was a last hurrah for the high-revving, naturally aspirated era, a time when passion could still override practicality. Today, clean examples of the V10 M5 are getting harder to find. Prices for well-maintained cars are climbing. Collectors are waking up to what this car really represents. A piece of madness. A beautiful mistake. A legend. Because sometimes the things that burn out fastest shine the brightest. When the E60 M5 first hit the streets in 2005, it carried a hefty price tag, around $90,000 fully loaded. For a German performance sedan with a screaming V10 and motorsport DNA, that number wasn't shocking. It was a statement. Fast forward a few years, and the story changes. The maintenance costs started to pile up. SMG failures, rod-bearing issues, throttle actuator replacements, all these things turned ownership into a nightmare for people who just wanted a fast daily driver. Gas prices were rising, the economy wasn't doing great, and suddenly this high-strung, temperamental V10 monster didn't look like such a good deal anymore. By the early 2010s, E60 M5 prices had crashed hard. It wasn't uncommon to see used examples selling for $18,000 to $25,000, sometimes even lower. Think about that, a 500 horsepower V10-powered BMW, cheaper than a base model Toyota Corolla. But here's the thing about cars like this, the market forgets them until it doesn't. Over time, enthusiasts began to realize what BMW had actually built here. The only V10 sedan BMW ever made. No turbos, no hybrid systems, no artificial filters between the driver and the experience. Just raw, naturally aspirated power, and a soundtrack that could give any supercar a run for its money. And as the years passed, the bad examples disappeared. The ones that were neglected, poorly maintained, beaten into the ground, they vanished. What's left today? The clean ones, the well-documented ones, the cars that were cared for by owners who BMW understood exactly what they had. And those cars, their prices are rising. In today's market, a low-mileage E60 M5 in good condition can easily fetch $50,000 to $70,000. Manual transmission models, especially rare in the US, can go even higher, sometimes north of $80,000 for the right car with the right options. Special color combinations, fully documented service history, and stock unmodified examples, those are the unicorns. And the collectors know it. But here's the catch. The cheapest M5 V10s on the market, they're often the ones you want to run away from, because skipping maintenance on a car like this isn't just risky, it's financially suicidal. Rod bearing replacements can cost thousands. SMG repairs, also thousands. This is not a car that forgives shortcuts. And yet, for those willing to invest the time, the care, and yes, the money, the reward is owning one of the last truly wild performance sedans of its kind. A car from a time when engineers still had the freedom to be reckless, when passion could override practicality, when BMW was willing to risk everything on a machine that didn't make sense but made history. The E60 M5 has gone from overlooked problem child to modern classic, from depreciated disaster to respected legend, because sometimes the cars that shine the brightest are the ones that burned the hardest. At the end of the day, the E60 M5 wasn't about perfect lap times. It wasn't about luxury or comfort or daily drivability. It was about pushing the limit, about seeing just how far BMW's M division could go when no one was holding them back. This was a car built on passion, not on spreadsheets. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't easy, it wasn't even particularly reliable, but it was honest and it was wild. The M5 V10 didn't care about being your friend. It didn't care about being practical. It was there to challenge you, to fight you, to make every drive feel like a battle worth showing up for. In a world where modern performance cars are filled with driver aids, soft limiters, and artificial sounds piped through the speakers, the E60 M5 stands apart. It's raw, it's flawed, it's real. BMW never made another car like it, and they probably never will again, because the world has changed. Regulations, emissions, market demands, they don't leave much room for irrational V10 monsters anymore. But that's exactly why the E60 M5 matters, because it represents a moment in time when madness was allowed to win, when engineers could dream bigger than they should have, when someone at BMW said, forget what makes sense, let's build something incredible. And they did. They built their own Godzilla. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more automotive legends. And tell us in the comments, would you dare to own one of these beasts today? Or is this madness best left in the past? Thanks for watching.